It started with the silence. The kind that crept into a marriage and never left. Josh and I didn't fight, not really, we just stopped being anything more than two people in the same house. I'd talk about my day, and he'd nod without looking up from his laptop. I'd reach for his hand during movies, and he'd be holding his phone. I stopped wearing perfume. I stopped asking him to notice. Eventually, I stopped expecting anything at all. I wasn't angry. I was just forgotten. Last Friday, he texted me around 5. Mark might swing by to grab the toolkit. Let him in if I'm not home. That was it. No how are you, no see you later. I stared at the message a while before tossing the phone aside. I was in an old hoodie and leggings, hair up, face bare. But when I heard the knock, I paused. Then, almost instinctively, I changed. Loose gray tank top. Black cotton shorts. Not lingerie. Not sexy. But just enough. I opened the door and there he was, Mark, as casually handsome as I remembered. His eyes swept over me in that half-second men think we don't notice. He smiled. I smiled back. He stepped in, smelled like cedarwood and heat. I offered him a drink and he said yes. We sat in the living room. Talked about nothing. I mentioned Josh working late again and Mark just raised a brow. He's lucky, he said. Most guys would kill to come home to this. I laughed, unsure if I was flattered or exposed. His words sat in the air. He didn't backpedal. He looked at me like he meant it. I turned away, tried to focus on the coffee I was pouring. He followed me to the kitchen, leaned against the counter, watched me. I could feel his eyes tracing every move I made. My fingers trembled as I handed him the mug. You okay? He asked, voice low. I'm fine, I replied too fast. He didn't push. He just touched my wrist when he took the mug. It was small, deliberate. I didn't pull away. The contact lingered. My chest rose. His gaze dropped. The silence turned electric. Josh texted. Late night again. Don't wait up. Mark read my face before I said a word. He didn't say anything, just stepped closer. I didn't move. His hand slid from my wrist to my elbow. He waited. I tilted my chin up. We kissed. Not the soft kind. Not the confused kind. The kind that answers a question you've been too afraid to ask. His mouth on mine, hands firm, body flush. I felt his breath on my neck. My fingers gripped his shirt like a lifeline. It wasn't planned. It wasn't slow. But it was real. More real than anything I'd felt in months. And I didn't stop it. His hands didn't hesitate the second time. The first kiss had cracked something open, and the second tore it wide. I didn't think. I didn't analyze. I just let myself feel. His lips moved with certainty, like he'd imagined this before. Maybe he had. Maybe I had too. My back met the wall. His breath hit my collarbone. Fingers explored like they belonged, tugging the hem of my tank top, brushing the side of my waist. I didn't stop him. I didn't want to. My mind tried to catch up, but my body was already answering questions my marriage had left silent for too long. He whispered my name once, like it tasted good in his mouth. I responded without words, mouth open against his, hand tugging him closer by the waistband of his jeans. There was a hunger in both of us, but his restraint made it worse. He paused just long enough to search my eyes. You sure? I nodded. That was all it took. His hand slid under my clothes like he'd memorized a map he'd been forbidden to touch. My skin felt foreign under his fingers, alive in a way it hadn't in forever. I arched into him, every nerve awake, desperate. He bit his lip, exhaled hard, then kissed me again, deeper, rougher. I let go. Let my hands roam over his chest, his shoulders digging into muscle, holding him like I needed him to stay exactly there. There was no shame. No doubt. Only heat, only now. We didn't speak. Our bodies did. Every movement said what we hadn't dared voice. We're not supposed to, but we want to. And it's not just physical. It's escape. It's relief. It's being seen. He picked me up like I weighed nothing. I gasped but didn't protest. His mouth pressed against my shoulder, my throat, the space just below my ear. Every inch he touched felt claimed. Mine. His. Ours for that moment. His hands trembled once, like even he was trying to process how quickly we'd crossed the line. But he didn't stop. Neither did I. Our rhythm found itself, breath sinking. bodies pressed in places I hadn't felt worshipped in years. I closed my eyes and lost myself in it. I didn't think about my husband. I didn't think about tomorrow. I just held on to the only thing in front of me that made me feel like a woman again. When it was over, there was no awkwardness. Just breathing. Fast. Shaky. Full. He brushed hair from my face. I looked at him, but not too long. We both knew this wasn't innocent, but it was honest. And in that silence, I knew I'd stepped into something I couldn't undo. But part of me didn't want to. I didn't expect the way he held me after. It wasn't rushed or guilty. It was grounding, like he knew I needed to catch my breath before the weight of what we'd done settled in. His thumb traced slow circles against my hip, like he didn't want to let go yet. Neither did I. He didn't speak, just let the silence stretch, and for once it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt earned. The air was thick with what had passed between us, but also with something calmer, something that made me feel safe in a way I hadn't in a long time. I turned slightly, letting my fingers trail across his chest. His skin was warm, his breathing still uneven. I studied the way his chest rose and fell. The small scar near his collarbone, the tension in his jaw softening with every second. There was no mask on his face, no performance. Just a man who had wanted me, and didn't pretend otherwise. The irony didn't escape me. My husband hadn't touched me like this in months. When he did, it felt mechanical, distracted, like an obligation he was too tired to complete. But with Mark it had been full attention. Focused hands. Intentional desire.
No hesitasten.
He finally looked at me, eyes searching, not for permission but for understanding. I gave it without words. My hand found his again, held it quietly. We didn't say we'd do it again. We didn't promise anything. But the way he looked at me told me he didn't regret it. I stood, pulled my top back over my shoulder, slowly grounding myself again. He sat up, watching, but didn't try to control the moment.
No possessiveness.
Just presence. I glanced at my phone on the table. No new messages. Not even a check-in. The contrast hit me hard. I had just broken a vow, stepped outside of everything I said I'd be, but I didn't feel broken. I felt acknowledged. Real. Mark stood, fixed his shirt, and picked up his keys. I followed him to the door. We stood there, inches apart. Not lovers now. Not just friends either. Somewhere in between. He touched my cheek once. Just a brush. Then he leaned in, not for a kiss, but to say something. You deserved that. Don't forget it. Then he walked away. I closed the door gently, heart still beating like a drum. Not from guilt. From awakening. Something had shifted inside me. I didn't know where it would lead, but I knew the woman who let him in wasn't the same woman standing there now. I had tasted something honest, even if it came wrapped in a lie. And honesty, even in the wrong hands, has a way of showing you what you've been missing.